imagine the scene. You're having your monthly meeting with your business sponsor, going through the progress reports, project deliverables, service levels, and future ideas. They say, well, look, we have an idea where we want to improve the experience of our visitors, and we found a solution which will help us achieve that. We're talking reception, booking meetings, desks, and turnstiles. It's software as a service, so we can manage the whole process, start to finish, with the supplier directly. We've already had a few discussions with them, and they've given us access to a demo account. Just wanted to let you know. So what do? Do you say, thank you very much for the information, I hope it all goes well? Do you say, let me check with my colleagues in central IT to see if we have something already in place? Or do you say, help me understand the problem you're trying to solve in more detail? I'm John, and this is a series of short articles called Tales from a Portfolio Manager. I help people in corporates plan technology across teams. So you could be somebody with a portfolio of clients, projects, services, or a backlog of features, and you have to manage them across a wide variety of teams in order to achieve any number of goals. I've been doing these roles for about over 20 years and for many corporates, and I have a few tales to tell. The best thing I can do for you is to encapsulate that experience into my advisory, online training and coaching so that you can reflect on how you can solve some pretty challenging issues that you can come across, and as a result, be more successful in your role. If you like the content, stay tuned for more episodes and try for free our courses with a link in the article description. Well, in terms of the questions, the answer I wouldn't give is the first one. I appreciate that the business sponsor has been transparent in letting me know, and I see that as an invitation to take a closer look. So I'll err on the second or third response, actually. Naturally, I'll be curious to understand what needs to be fixed in the visitor experience and what they want to see happening. In this particular scenario, I'm assuming that somebody somewhere already has done some quick desk-based research, a couple of phone calls, a meeting with the supplier, and the solution's already been decided. This may be sufficient in simple scenarios. However, for larger organizations, certainly there are far more factors to consider, especially the scale. You won't be talking just about a couple of visitors, but maybe tens of thousands a year. Another consideration is the do nothing option. Is there a legacy system already in place? Is it out of support, or are there new requirements that it does not fulfill? What would the staff do to facilitate the visitor management if there were no digital enablement of the process? Would they use index cards, post-it notes, Excel, spreadsheets, and walkie-talkies to manage the flow? The downside risk of not fulfilling a requirement in the short term may cause reputational damage and require substantial additional resources to work the process, with the incumbent error and embarrassment that ensues. So inevitably, there is a sense of urgency. Depending on the circumstances, sometimes implementing something local sooner does trump onboarding a corporate-wide solution later. Yet fulfilling that need with a just-in-time response may come with the expectation that a longer-term solution can be found and supported by corporate IT and placed on the roadmap. I've often found that the not invented here syndrome can quickly take root. So even after a couple of phone calls, people have already decided on the solution, and as a result, they are less open to discussing alternatives. Given the pressing need to solve many other issues, I understand why the desire to get stuff done and move forward doesn't go away. On the other hand, if there is a standard solution that does exist within the company, people can get offended quite quickly simply because it hasn't been considered, or since out of the 10 features, the last one can't be fulfilled, and that feature suddenly becomes a deal breaker. People tend to get wrapped up in their egos, whatever the solution. They decide that it is the best choice, and it becomes difficult to disambiguate between the ego and the solution. So if you offer an alternative, they can become offended, And in this situation, I try to make it easy for them to adopt an alternative idea as if it were theirs in the first place. You can get caught up in a culture between us and them, where the opposing team runs around their idea of how the problem should be solved versus the other team and their idea. Suppose different teams in diverse parts of the organization employ empathy to understand their counterparties' issues and way of working. That can help different teams. In that case, you can have a more rational conversation about the pros and cons of the different approaches, and it becomes easier. You're effectively generating options to consider. That may mean walking through the actual experience, and in this instance, pretending to be a visitor or a receptionist or an employee looking to use the office for the day. I've tried to find the time with people to help them understand an alternative perspective. Often people are not in a listening mode. They are in just do it mode. Your professional credibility is based on whether you can just do it, rather than helping them understand the broader picture. Trying to break down culture into something more collaborative is more than a single person task. It's a collective endeavor. So what do we do when we're faced with this issue? I think leading by example is the best way forward. So rather than only representing the corporate technology function to the business sponsor and using that as the basis of your authority, an additional source of authority is instead of drawing on the empathy you can generate regarding your understanding of the business problem. Suppose you've spent time understanding the issue, walking through the process, identifying with your colleagues, and understanding the opportunity and the customer journey. In that case, they can see that you're on the same page as them. So when you do offer an alternative opinion after some time and consistent behavior, they may well be open to a broader debate on how to solve the issue. So you're probably thinking right now, this is all very well and good, John, but I can't afford the time to spend doing this walk with me empathizing approach to solving business problems. I agree that the amount of time it takes can be substantial. And I find that my diary gets full, meetings back to back, hour after hour, and the time I set aside to do research or spend time with my colleagues can suddenly evaporate. These are hard choices, and it is a question of priority, but our investment will have a return. So imagine a scenario where you have exercised empathy and, as a result, established more trust. How many crisis meetings and sudden changes in direction would you have avoided? Since we've all been able to influence the decision process much earlier in the life cycle. Stay tuned for another episode of Tales from a Portfolio Manager in 2 weeks. Thank you.
This article is sponsored by sdbp.institute, an online training and coaching platform that enables participants to become strategic digital business partners. In just 4 months, with a 2 to 3 hour a week commitment, teams and individuals can demonstrate value and gain confidence through practicing the tools and techniques that help people collaborate on technology roadmaps across teams. Whilst giving a foundation understanding of relationships, customer value and alignment, the courses can help participants drive results for themselves, their teams and their organisation. One client said, "Our stakeholders have started to trust us more based on better expectation management and small incremental improvements through applying the principles and approaches taught in the course. It gave fantastic insight." Many organisations and individuals have benefited from the instruction given on our platform. So you can go to sdbp.institute and see how you and your team can gain a certificate in Strategic Digital Business Partnering, or contact us for bespoke corporate training.